package, we believe in the governor's office that our education reform plan fully meets this standard that the court has established. We believe our 21st century funding model in our reform plan provides funding for 21st century reforms that we've talked about for the last couple of hours, I believe, that we align our state resources to address the issues of equity and parity, that we create a flexible and adaptable school funding system that encourages innovation and creativity at the local level, that we are using instructional quality as a driver in our model. We recognize in our model that every student is different and that we allocate our resources based on those differences to meet the needs of our students, that we retain the shared state and local partnership that we currently have under our system, but in our proposal, we accurately account for local resources through our accountability reforms, that we use updated data and information to recalibrate the model in future years so that it remains current and that it utilizes the best information that we have available as to what will assure our students a high quality education. But because of the financial realities that we are currently living in, that we must continue to live within our means, and that we must allow for a transition from the old model to the new model. So as a result of that, we are phasing in our funding model in the initial years, over an 8-year period. We think our funding reforms address the challenges put before the state by the court's constitutional concerns in the following ways. We believe that the court's primary concern in the DeRoff case was that the state failed to provide funding to assure a thorough and efficient public education system, and that provided all students at least an adequate education. 2, we believe that the court repeatedly found that the General Assembly improperly engaged in residual budgeting by developing funding system based on the amount of money available rather than the amount of money needed to meet the educational needs of our students. Thirdly, that the system is currently over-reliant on local property taxes, and the need for repeated levies in the state to generate revenues for schools is unacceptable because it contributes to the disparities between school districts' ability to pay for staff, equipment, facilities, and services in our school district that are necessary to provide a thorough and efficient education for our students. And so we believe that the Ohio evidence-based model and the other funding changes that we are proposing in our reform plan addresses the court's concerns. And we believe that because the Ohio evidence-based model assures all districts the funding necessary to provide the resources and the opportunities that our students need for a thorough and efficient public education system. 2, that we eliminate residual budgeting because in our model, we're defining what a 21st century education is, and then we cost out what those different elements are, and then we determine what will be the local contribution to that, and then anything else that the local contribution does not cover, the state has the responsibility to provide, and we do that in our model. We eliminate the reliance on not reliance, but the unfunded mandates. Some of the unfunded mandates that we have in the system right now. Again, under the old model, we weren't directly funding superintendents and treasurers. In our model, we are funding superintendents and treasurers in our model. And in our model, we increase the state's responsibility for funding a 21st century high-quality education through the state's contribution. We reduce the charge-off to 20 mills. It's currently 23 mills. And we believe, address the issue of reappraisal phantom revenue with conversion levies. And again, if you're successful in addressing the reappraisal phantom revenue, then you address this issue of ballot fatigue that our taxpayers are experiencing right now on a regular basis in our school districts. Based model is the model that we have selected in the governor's office to move forward with, and this slide was added because every time we have presented our reform package, especially around the school funding reforms, a lot of people want to compare our reforms to the current system. And really to understand what we have created, you really have to try and forget everything that you know about the current foundation formula and how the current system operates. To give you a quick example, under the current system there is a basic aid amount that the state determines, and that basic aid amount is appropriated to school districts, again, based on a state and local shared responsibility. Under our model, there is no state basic aid amount anymore under our model. And so again, because we are focusing in on the students' needs in a particular school district, the needs for students are not the same across school districts. And so because of that, we do not have a statewide basic aid amount anymore. The evidence-based model funds all requirement components of an educational system within a school district, and the levels of funding are determined by research, but also the components of an evidence-based model are determined by best practices and research. And the levels for the funding model take into account the unique student needs of each district. Why use the Ohio evidence-based model? We use it because we think the funding is based on the needs of each student in the districts. It assures that teacher quality drives the resources. It determines an amount for each district based on the unique needs of the students within that district. It provides flexibility to respond to Ohio's unique circumstances and priorities. It utilizes resources to tell us what is needed for student success. We update the special education weights in our model to the 2006 weights that were developed recently. And we maximize transparency. We create a higher level of understanding about the model because we think we simplify the model compared to the current funding system. We think we systemically address the disparities across the state of Ohio with this model, and that this model recognizes the different needs of a 21st century